I'm joined this week by Jeff Upton. He is the executive director of We Are Building Lives. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Morgan. I appreciate it.
I'm really excited to talk about everything it is that you guys do because we are focused on veterans and hearing veteran stories. But first and foremost, how did you get into this line of work and why?
You know, I transitioned out of 27 years in full-time ministry before I started working in this particular line of work. And it just basically got to the point where one day I came to the realization that here in Nashville, literally like the buckle of the Bible Belt, that anyone that's in a homeless situation could show up at any given church, and most churches across Nashville, and people just put their hands up in the air and not know what to do with an individual in that type of need. And so I just decided to put my personal faith into action, and that's what led me to the organization that I'm running now.
Okay, and We Are Building Lives. You guys are helping veterans essentially stay off the street. That's the goal.
Correct. We do two things. We house transitionally veterans who are completely homeless, so they don't have anywhere else to go, anywhere else to turn. They may not have family, or family may live across the country, or they just may be alone. And then we also have what we call Project Advance, where if a veteran and their family contact us and they're behind on their rent, they're behind on their utilities, mortgage, whatever it may be, due to a loss of job or illness, a plethora of things that could happen, then we will step in and assist them to help keep them housed.
That's really important work. And even just driving around Nashville, you see a lot of signs that it's a lot of veterans that are often the ones experiencing this.
So the most recent statistics about here in let's just say Middle Tennessee, and what I mean by that is Davidson County and basically the counties that touch Davidson County. You're going to have on average, and these statistics are a little bit older, but you're going to have on average about 2,300 homeless individuals in the area to begin with, and about 17 to 18% of those are veterans.
Wow. When you were in the ministry work and you were seeing this happen, how often was it that people were coming in and it was just kind of like, we don't know what to do with you? Was that a common occurrence?
That actually happened at the last church that I worked with. That actually happened several times. And, we could use some of our resources. Several times we just stopped service and just passed the tray and took up a collection and did what we could, or helped put them up in a week-long stay hotels for, 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And you just kind of did what you could, but then after that you kind of would lose contact and you never really knew what happened to that person.
So you felt like coming into this organization, you could really help them over the course of time versus just kind of a Band-Aid fix.
Absolutely. And even the name of the organization, We Are Building Lives. I mean, literally we're helping these veterans build their lives back, and a lot of times start from scratch, from ground zero. When I say that, I mean sometimes they've lost their birth certificate, Social Security card, driver's license, and we're literally taking them to the Social Security office, the DMV, everything, getting their identification, just trying to get their life back together.
I don't think we think about those things when it comes to people experiencing homelessness, right? You just see them and think, oh, well, they ended up on the street and their belongings are somewhere or something like that. So what other kind of misconceptions is there of whether it be veterans who are homeless or homeless in general, but I think more of the experience here is veterans dealing with homelessness?
I think some of the misconceptions might actually surprise people. There are for veterans, there are a lot of there's a lot of resources out there for veterans. Generally across the board, more resources for veterans than for just civilians that have never served. The difference is that you're probably dealing with a higher level of mental illness among veterans, much higher levels of PTSD. And, even among the veteran community, veterans are 2 times more likely to commit suicide than non-veterans. In fact, each day across America, there's actually an epidemic where 17 veterans across America per day commit suicide. So there's a lot of the mental issues, the social issues, and just across the board that you have to take everything into account.
Yeah, that's so tough, and we do see it. And we have this interview with Scotty Hastings, and he was really talking about his experience. And I think firsthand, we're starting to learn a lot of the things that they go through. Not, we think about when they're over there,
Sure.
but when they come back, it's a battle, just not the same. And they go through a lot of things that we kind of forget about. It's like they serve, they come back, okay, yay.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because my dad was a Vietnam veteran. I was actually born in Incirlik, Turkey, on an Air Force base. He told stories because he served from 65 to 70, about 76, somewhere right around there. Mm-hmm. And he told stories of, coming back from service, and especially during that time in American history, wearing his uniform and people, saying bad things and, baby killer and so on and so forth. And that was my mom and dad were both from Alabama, and that was in the Deep South.
Wow. And so was that connection kind of with your father played a role in you also wanting to do this at all?
It did. It played a big role. My dad died of a massive heart attack when he was 44. I was 19. I think it's a little bit of a way to kind of connect back with him. But then also, I just really enjoy the tangible aspect of being able to assist people. But that being connected to the men and women that have served this country, very important. Like I said, my dad was in Vietnam. My grandfather was in World War II. My great-grandfather was a doughboy in World War I. My niece was just recently stationed right up the road in Clarksville. So it runs deep in my blood and the DNA of who I am.
With having so many generations having served, was that ever something you wanted to do, or did you feel you wanted to serve?
I did at one time when I was little, and then I discovered, I watched a lot of John Wayne movies or Clint Eastwood war movies growing up. And then I realized one day it hit me. I was like, in the movies they get shot, they fall down and they get back up. In real life, they don't. But in all seriousness, when I was growing up, I was much more into sports personally, and then actually wanted to go into be a high school history teacher or archaeologist. How I got into ministry is a whole different other story, but I still had that thing inside of me that just really wanted to assist people.
Yeah, well, and ministry is serving. It's just a different type of service.
It is a different type, you can of taking care of the emotional, spiritual, physical well-being. But I really have enjoyed my last going on 6 years of being able to transition into doing what I do now and helping the organization grow toward who I think that we're supposed to become in the future.
What has that been transition like? Because that's 6 years. Mm-hmm. Has the organization been around for longer than that?
Great question. Yeah, the organization was actually formed in Franklin, Tennessee, in a United Methodist Church men's Bible study. And, all the men in the Bible study were 60 plus years old in 2006, 2007. And they're doing what men do when we get together. They're complaining about, government and politics and the world around them. And then they start talking about, how homelessness is growing in the area. And they see the signs, we're, homeless veteran, please help. And then they stopped and they realized that there weren't that many, but every guy in that room at some point had been in the military. And one guy in that group, Tim Greggeth, who was the founder of the organization, he still works alongside of us in an advisory capacity. I love Tim. He's like a father figure to me. And Tim just said, you know what, somebody's got to do something. And, that's going to be me. And so he started the organization, did all the heavy lifting, getting the 501c3, doing all the legalities, getting the first board together. And he did that for quite a few years. And then I started on board in 2020. And that was an interesting time, but that's when I came on board.
And have you seen a change in the things that are needed for veterans over the course of that time? I imagine when you first started, they first created the company, that there was a different need, and now it's evolved over time.
Right. There has been a much larger need. The probably two areas that I would three areas that I would specify first and foremost. One would be the growing presence of females in the military. So we're seeing a lot more of the needs, homeless issues amongst female veterans that are getting out that fall into some of the same traps that the male veterans do. We can circle back to that later because that's some of our future plans. I think another issue that we see are some of the mental aspects of it. A lot of these soldiers coming back with PTSD issues, and they turn to substances to try to help placate the mental issues that they're going through. And the other that everyone is around here in this area, here in the Nashville area, are keenly aware of, and really across the entire country in the last 5 years, property values and rents have just skyrocketed. So even with public assistance, Section 8, HUD, all those things that are available, it's still near impossible to find adequate housing at an affordable price for veterans that may have physical limitations. Maybe they're even drawing their full amount that they can get in their, but it's still not enough to survive. You've got 1-bedroom apartments here in Nashville that are going for $1,600-$1,700 a month, and if you're drawing $3,000 a month in disability, it's not leaving you a lot of wiggle room for anything.
Yeah, and when you talk to these veterans about trying to make these changes for them, what is the thing that you see from them where, I think one of the questions that a lot of people have often when they see homeless veterans is how can we help them in the best way?
Right.
So what do you see from them that could potentially have an answer?
Offering them hope. One of the first things we do when a veteran comes to us in our academy house, where we actually house the veterans that are completely homeless, is we just say, look, for your first 30 days, we want you to kind of just collect yourself. You've been scrounging for where your next bed's going to be, sometimes your next meal, wondering when your next shower would be. We're going to take care of all of that for you. For 30 days, we just want you to take a deep breath. We want you to relax. And then after that, we're going to slowly start helping you build or rebuild a resume, work skills. We're going to give you drug and alcohol counseling. We're going to provide you food, clothing, shelter, provide all those wraparound services, to help you slowly see that there are people and organizations that do care, and you can do this. I mean, when you have these guys in the military, we had one guy, a very interesting scenario. One guy, the man drove a Bradley tank. So $1 million+ vehicle, the government was trusting him to do that. But once he got out of the military, he just lost his way. He lost where he connected in society, and things fell apart. And he was like, they used to trust me to drive these $1 million vehicles, and now, now I can't even get up in the morning to find purpose.
And that's really hard. What you often hear from a lot of veterans is that coming back to civilization, it's almost like there's this forgotten space that happens where they just feel like they've served, whether it be what they experienced over there or whether they served and they come back and they've lost things that were here before they were there. There's so much of this reconnect that doesn't happen when they come back. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about a little bit here too.
Yeah, it's very difficult to transition from the military, where you're told, what time to wake up and what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be wearing. And you've done that maybe for 10, 15, 20 years, and now suddenly you have to begin to do all of these things, on your own. The vast majority of people in the military transition out easily, but it's going to be that, 10% that are going to have the more difficult time, who have put in the time, who have done all of these things, and they thought it was going to be easy, but then they just struggle with it when they get out. And it may lead to a plethora of other things, not always homelessness, of course.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, and that's just a big one, because I think it's really difficult to see someone who's served the country and done so much to help to then not receive help in return, that's really hard.
Oh, it's extremely difficult. Whether you saw combat or not, you were willing to put your name on the dotted line. And if called upon, then yes, you would be putting your life on line. Bullets would be flying by your head. And of course, we've seen both. We've served veterans who saw, no combat, in the maybe late 70s throughout the early 80s. And we also deal with those that did multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And what people tend to forget, that rush that came after September 11th. I mean, those veterans are now in their early 40s, all the way up into their early 50s now.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned wanting to look towards the future, and you were talking about female veterans, but also I imagine there's more you guys want to do and help, and
Absolutely.
Being able to do that, what can that look like?
We've got big plans. If it were up to us as an organization, there wouldn't be a single homeless veteran here in Middle Tennessee whatsoever. However, we just purchased a second property back in February over in the Whites Creek area, where we will be able to house an additional 15 veterans. And then after that, our 3-year plan down the road is we're going to actually begin either working with a builder or some other, the housing fund or the Barnes Fund here in this area, where we'll either start building or purchasing affordable long-term housing for veterans, where it'll be income based. So, it won't be any more than 10 to 12% of your income. So if you make, $2,000 a month, then, it's not going to exceed, a little over $200 and something a month, but we're going to help keep you housed in an affordable manner. That's really what we're doing. That's really where we want to go. But our first step is going to be able to provide that for female veterans, specifically those with children. So in all of Middle Tennessee, there's basically 3 organizations that provide beds for homeless veterans. And of those 3 organizations, it amounts to about 80 to 85 beds, somewhere right around there, for approximately 300 plus homeless veterans at any given time. Of those beds provided just for veterans, only 7 of those are designated for females. And those are single females without children. There's nothing for single females with children. And with females becoming more and more predominant in the military, we get several phone calls a week for female veterans, needing assistance to stay housed. And so that's something that we would like to do. And my problem is that I'm too picky, because I will only purchase a property for a female veteran with children in a school district that I would be willing to put my children in. So that's going to kind of, make the prices go up, but it's just something that is important to us as an organization.
Well, you're trying to respect them, and you're not trying to just do the bottom, right? You're not
Exactly.
saying, hey, we're going to put you somewhere and you'll be in a school district, but it'll come with other problems. You're trying to give them the best step up possible.
Exactly. We would much rather, focus, you hear it all the time, quality versus quantity, but, we would really want to provide the best quality services that we possibly can.
I love that you guys are doing this, and I never knew, especially those statistics and just even the gender side of things as well. Jeff, I would love for you to share. I like to end my podcast with always a piece of advice or inspiration or motivation, maybe something we didn't talk about yet that you feel on your heart, whatever that may be. So I'm handing the reins over to you.
Sure. I've several things. One, I would just encourage your listeners, people that are interested in serving veterans, whether if it's here local in Nashville, just look us up, wearebuildinglives.org. See if it might be something that you might be interested in. If you want to donate, volunteer, whatever, you can look us up and see where all the money goes. We're a small staff that's decentralized. We would love to hear from the people that are out there that may be listening. But I would also encourage people to think about it this way, they think that you have to do some grandiose type of thing. And I've always told people that I don't think that we should ever ask God that we should do something great. People get caught up and I've got to make this huge gesture. I've got to do all these incredible things. We should never ask God that we should do great things. Instead, we should ask God that we can do small things with a great amount of love. And I think that's what we need to focus on when it comes to assisting people that are veterans that are homeless, or civilians that are homeless, or anyone that's just in need. It's not always the grandiose thing, but it's what you said earlier. It's about meeting that person where they are, respecting them where they are, and showing them that love in the truest and most pure form that will make our community around us much better.
That's a really good thing to hear, because I think one of the struggles people often have with volunteering their time or doing stuff with nonprofits is they feel like it's not enough, or that they could be doing more. And one of the biggest things I've always leaned on is if I can change one person's day or one person's life, or just one person feels impacted by something that I'm doing, then I'm doing something that matters. And I think, to your point, we often fall into this habit of, well, it's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. And it really does. It makes an impact.
It does. I can't tell you how many times where we've seen where it's been one person that told one of our veterans, hey, thank you for your service, or one person that was in the business industry that offered one of our veterans who had no hope, but offered him or her, the first job that they've had in a long time that has really changed their life. We had we get some of our veterans come to us out of the Department of Corrections, and a few years ago, my operations director, Kevin Wilkinson, wonderful guy. He's actually a Desert Storm vet himself. He was one of the first graduates of our program in 2007, 2008. And he went and got his business degree from MTSU, and he's been our director of operations ever since. But Kevin's got a passion for veterans, period, no matter where they're coming from. And one individual came to us from the Department of Corrections. He showed up. Kevin was like, can you come meet the new guy? I said, sure. And I go to meet the new guy, and he's still in his prison grays. We had picked him up, upon his release. His prison grays. He had been locked up for 15 years, so he didn't fit in any of the clothes that he went in with. He's still wearing his prison Crocs, and while he was there, he had torn a meniscus playing basketball that he never had fixed. Had no hope, no nothing, and he didn't think anyone beyond those walls would care for him. And he found a group of people that cared, gave him hope, and gave him time. And within 6 to 8 months, he had gotten a job, saved every penny, because we don't charge program fees. So when you come to us, we don't charge, many organizations will charge program fees which is insane to me, but will charge program fees to their clients. We don't do that. He saved every dime that he made. He worked as a roofer out in Murfreesboro, and ended up buying a house with his sister, and they still live out there today.
Wow.
And just wonderful stories like that. We've had guys come in, and they given time and space, guys that have started their own businesses, became handyman. We had one guy that came and got a ton of certifications. He now works for a large construction company out in Franklin. I'm working with another sister organization just today. I filled out a form to get a vehicle donated to one of our veterans who is working at Target now, and he saved up money, and he's about ready to move on to his own full-time place. So, it's just tangible things that we love to see and be a part of.
It's really beautiful to think about how just one action can create this entire ripple effect for somebody. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what your entire organization is doing. It's just starting the one action to create that effect to continue going down.
Yeah, right. It's just, it's little by little. It's taking people, exactly where they are. And I'm sorry, I'm going to revert back into my ministry role past just for a moment. But, in the Bible, there's a story, when, a woman who was, went out to the well to draw water in the heat of the day. Why would you draw water from a well at the heat of the day? Well, it was because that she was a known woman around the village and town that no one else would have anything to do with, because she had been with multiple men and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, when the townspeople and even Jesus's closest friends were looking at this woman going, who does this woman think she is? They saw her as a dirty woman, as a sinful woman. But Jesus met her at a well and just simply saw her as a woman who was thirsty. And, there's so many men and women, whether they're veterans or not, that we come in contact with that aren't evil. They're not bad. They're not dirty. They're just thirsty. They're looking for something more. And they're looking for another chance. They're looking for another opportunity. And, that's what we want to do. We want to provide that second chance and that second opportunity and do what we do with a great amount of love.
Well, and how cool would it be if everybody started meeting each other where they were? I think the world would be a better place.
I think it would, but we also have to be grounded in realism at the same time, and know that that's most likely not going to happen. But boy, we can try to do it ourselves as often as possible.
Yes, and you be the change that you want to see in the world. That's very much a part of this.
That's right.
So, Jeff, thanks for being here and sharing your story and the story of what you guys are doing. Go check out We Are Building Lives, even if you're not in Nashville, and maybe if you're so inspired, you can start your own and work with them to do one in your city if that can happen.
Quite honestly, if there's somebody, no matter what state you're in, if you're listening, what we do here in Nashville, we can literally pick up and do in another state at any time. We can replicate it. We've been talking about it, and we would love to do that. If anyone would like to, just get on our website, call us, and you're not going to get like an administrative assistant. It's going to be me that calls you back. So just feel free. We would love to partner with anyone, or if there's a veteran right here in Middle Tennessee that needs any assistance, please get on our website. Please call us. We would love to help you as much as we possibly can.
I love that. Well, thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Morgan.